Hi, David.
Hello.
So we had a really cool webinar yesterday, which was about producing more marketing videos. And I hosted, you were a panelist. We also had some guests from a customer, FS Investments, and from one of our partners, Brightcove. So
It was
the
a great
webinar was
conversation.
cool. Yeah, it was a good conversation.
Rousing discussion about video production.
I woke up at 3 a.m. to start that at 4 a.m. because I live in Australia.
I was panicking in the event that you didn't wake up and I had to host it. Thankfully, that did not happen.
I had lots of contingencies planned. I had like several alarms, plus I had like telling people that they could call me and break through my DND with several calls and all this kind of stuff. But no, I didn't sleep. I didn't oversleep, which was good.
Everyone was awake. We had a great webinar.
Yeah, it was really fun. But we had a whole load of questions from the audience, and we didn't have time to get to all of them. So what I thought would be fun is if you and I chatted through some of the questions that we didn't get to. Would that be cool?
Yeah, let's do it. There's a lot of good questions we didn't have time for.
Yeah. So firstly, aren't we diluting the craft of the multimedia industry by posting low production video content to an audience?
Such a good question. Such a good question. This is something that kept coming up in my mind like during the whole webinar, because it's all like we were sort of presenting quality and like agility or speed of production as being opposed to each other. And I don't think that's true. I think that like amongst, folks that are trying to make video content, we kind of get what we're trying to say there. But I think that you got to really define what quality is. Like, are you going to make a really well polished but boring video? Like, is that good? Or is it something that's, interesting and compelling that someone wants to listen to, but is not, filmed with a full crew? I think that I think producing low quality video content is like visual pollution, and we should avoid that. Like, we don't want to just flood the world with low quality content that nobody cares about. But I do think that high quality content, especially now, has very little to do with production value. Like, production value can add to that, but it's not all of it.
I think that's a really good point. I think this question is like, it's a great question, but it's a couple of things that I want more information about. Like, what is the craft of the multimedia industry as well? Like, what are we actually talking about there? Because obviously we're not making feature films. We're not making like Oscar-winning animated shorts. We're making brand videos. We're like talking about businesses. So I think that, that idea of like, what is the multimedia industry that you're talking about? Like, are we actually part of a multimedia industry, or are we just a company who's like creating content that our audience wants to see? But yeah, then the other part of it is this, like, what is low production value, or what is high production value in one of these, and how much does that actually add to the message?
Yeah.
So
I feel like this person maybe works at a video production company
and worried about their job.
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, I think and that's kind of legit, right? With all these new tools that are coming out, like this tool that we're using right now, which is StreamYard. So easy to spin up something that looks pretty cool. And these days, like, I've got a video light here, which is pretty cheap, and like things are becoming more accessible. So I can see that you'd be concerned about your job if you were working in those sorts of industries.
Although I don't think that it is like, I think that all the sort of democratization of tooling and like, quote, low production video is video that just wouldn't have been produced before. Like, I don't think that, I think in some instances, some people are probably like making something themselves instead of going and like hiring a production company to make something pro. But largely, I think that like this kind of content is stuff that would not have been produced if we would have had to go hire a video production company to shoot and edit it. Like, it just wouldn't.
Right.
It would have been something else. It would have been a blog post.
Right, because we would have said that it's too expensive and doesn't have the ROI. Yeah. Okay, well, let's go on to the next question, because I know you and I can chat for ages about everything. Yes. So the next question is, best suggestions for a team of one with no real video creation background.
Yeah. What? Well, the suggestions. There's so many. Yeah. I mean, if you have no video creation background and you're one person and you're sort of being tasked with like dabbling in video, like, hey, go check this out, like go give this a shot, then whip out your camera and record some video, like go try it, you know? And I think that content like this that is not, you know, like scripted and shot and like don't try and produce an ad or something like that, but produce content that like would have been a blog post or would have been something else. Do it as a video, you know, try doing it as a video. But if you're actually tasked with like mission critical, like we need a video for Q4, like we need to produce this, go hire a person, you know? If you're a team of one goat, there's a lot of help out there. Go find someone to help you. If it's critical.
It does depend on what you're creating, because something like what we're doing now is totally possible for a team of one with the right tools. So if you just want to chat to someone like an executive on your team or something like that, or you need to make something that's a bit more off the cuff, I think, you know, a team of one could definitely do something like this. If you're, being asked to make an animation or something like that, you need help. But I will also say that there's a lot, you can create a video like we're doing now and have it be not very good quality if you haven't thought about certain things like lighting, like sound, like, you know, framing, those kinds of things that we do sort of think about and take for granted a bit. So there are definitely like there's a baseline that you can get to, and you can watch YouTube videos or look at tutorials to just get like a little bit of the basics of even just lighting for video or sound will get you a decent product when you're just working on your own.
Yeah. And work within your constraints. Like give yourself like don't do motion graphics. Use lighting sources that you already have. Use your like a camera you already have, and then just make it work within that. You know, like don't think you got to go be Hollywood. Just use the tools you've got and work within them.
Yeah, I always like that thing of the best camera is the one that you have with you. You know, like if you only have your iPhone with you, use that. Cool. Next question. How do you make videos and images more exciting when marketing industrial products?
Industrial products.
So we don't market industrial products, but I'm guessing that this is things like cranes or like things that like machines for a production line or something along those lines.
Yeah. I like this is just like a design question, right? This is like, how do you make something that a lot of people don't think are compelling? How do you make it compelling? Yeah. Wow. We go deep on that.
It also goes into your audience though as well, right? Like, are you marketing it to the people who are buying it, and are they looking at it in a lineup of all of these different products from different companies? Or are you trying to like make it exciting for someone who's new to this? Or I think like thinking through your audience is good. I liked the example you brought up in the webinar about the blend tech videos, because not that a blender is not exactly an industrial product, but can you imagine having like, well, it just popped into my head. I remember seeing videos that were like, it's like crushing things with like an industrial.
I was going to say hydraulic press content.
Hydraulic press content, yeah. So like something like that. Can you imagine like if you're marketing a crane and you have it like knocking into things or crushing a whole variety of things, or like that would be awesome.
Make it interesting.
And so it depends on your audience. Like, is that the kind of content you're trying to produce? If you're trying to produce like tutorial videos on how to use the equipment, maybe that's not the best choice.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to be said for that, like exciting, like grabbing attention by something like that, where, you know, you're using the hydraulic press to crush a whole bunch of stuff, and then talking about the actual features of the product. Those are sort of two different things. So it just really depends.
Yeah.
But hydraulic press videos, go look them up.
Hydraulic press content. I love that came up.
Oh, that just popped into my head. I just remember looking at that ages ago.
I watched so much of that.
Oh yeah, it's really good. Okay, any thoughts or experiences of taking what was an audio-only podcast and introducing video?
I mean, if you're in a situation where you've got a bunch of podcasts and you like want to put them on YouTube now, I don't know. I guess if at all possible, I would do it the other way around.
Right. I was
Like
going to say
shoot a
that too.
video and pull the audio out. Like that is better. If
Otherwise, you
you
have like a
are,
graphic of audio waveforms or something with like the
yeah,
person's
well, otherwise
headshot
you
who's
gotta,
speaking.
yeah. And I've seen
Uh,
that done before, right? Like I've seen
right.
somebody put on like just kind of a static graphic with like,
Yeah.
like a title on it. I guess if you're trying to do that, I would just ask, like, are you trying to put this content onto the right platform? Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
people don't listen to podcasts on YouTube. Like, people might
No.
find, like, if you want to use YouTube as a channel for folks to discover your podcast, maybe you go about that in a little bit different, like maybe post clips of it,
I was going to say, yeah, I was going to say clips. Maybe even get a like transcript and put some captions up, or like pull quotes or something like that from
Yeah.
that. You could also, I mean, you could also reuse clips from an audio only thing and shoot new video, like B-roll kind of footage, and have the audio going over it or something like that as well. But yeah, I
Yeah.
would ask, like, why
At that point,
do
I'm
you want
like,
to
just
make
shoot a video. Yeah. If
yeah,
you're going
and
to
definitely
then
if you
go
can
and
go
make a
anywhere.
video, like, why not just make a new video?
Right.
It's
Like what's your purpose? Like, yeah, are you trying to find an audience for your podcast? And if so, I would go the clips route, because yeah, nobody's listening to podcasts through YouTube. So I would like do a clip and then say, subscribe to my podcast here, and on the clip
yeah.
use either B-roll or graphics of audio waveforms and headshots of who's talking, or use quotes or something like that. But
Yeah.
okay, next, another one about channels. Any tips for repurposing longer format and video content to be geared towards short form platforms like Reels or TikTok authentically and effectively? Or alternatively, tips on how to build multiple distribution channels and different user behaviors into a video content strategy or brief. To me, this question's really asking about, like, how can we squeeze more juice out of the lemon? Like, how can we create one thing that will serve all platforms and all audiences? And that's a really valid question, because we're always asking ourselves that, like, should we put all this effort into this one piece of content? Can't we just give it across all of these different platforms? Do I really have to create something new for each of these platforms? What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I like thinking about it in this way, where you like put a bunch of time into make one big thing, and then you can like slice and dice it and break it down to go onto different platforms. I see a lot of people, a lot of YouTube creators do this, where they will make, like a longer piece of content for Patreon or a paid channel, and then post clips to a channel where it's like 5 minutes of it and be like, cool, watch the whole thing on Patreon. I see a lot of that happening. A lot of that. And I don't know, if it's going to be short to tease something else, it has to hit hard. Like, it's got to be immediately interesting. So if you have like a long podcast or a long video, like a long piece of video content about something, you kind of have to grab like the juiciest little bits of it and put it onto another shorter platform, another kind of a short form platform to get stuff in. And I like, the sort of test I use for that is that, especially like in Instagram reels and stuff, it has to hit within like 3 seconds, like it has to be, people scroll stopping. People say it's got to stop the scroll, which I see a lot of, like younger creators and designers and stuff making things that are just kind of paced too slow. Like, if you have something that's really compelling, you gotta slice and dice it and cram it into a really short amount of time. And if you go watch how other creators are doing this in TikTok and stuff like that, it's aggressive. It's more aggressive than they teach you in film school, where it's like, no, like, give this moment time to breathe or something. Like, no, like, it's sort of, short form platforms have birthed a new aesthetic, I think, where it's like hard cuts, really close. You can utilize, like, I like to cut between zooms and stuff, so that if you have something with like a beat in between some phrases, like change the cut, like crop in tight, do something so that there's like a visual beat to keep it moving, because it like has to be so attention grabbing, or else it's just everyone scrolls right past it and there's like somebody dancing that they would rather watch, you know. There's like there's like a cat video that will get their attention more quickly.
You could bring your cat to the video, and
or bring a cat. Yeah, or just put cats on it.
What I was going to say is, I think it doesn't, like, when we're thinking about repurposing content, we don't always have to think about using the original content and chopping it up in some way. Like, we can also think about creating a new piece of content that just directs people to the other one as well. Like we're doing now, like we're chatting about a longer piece of content that we created, but we're creating something new at the same time. So like, bring your cat and have your cat tell your audience to go check out the longer piece of content, you know. So sometimes I think otherwise it can feel a bit like square peg round hole if you're trying to shoehorn that longer content into a platform that just, it doesn't really fit. Consider creating new content that does fit on the platform, but that will like pull people towards the longer form content.
You bring up a good point that like a lot of these short form platforms have an extremely short memory, which I mean, you've got to like be responsible when you're creating content for a brand. Like you don't want to go off brand and do something crazy. But also, if there is a place to play around and to try stuff that you wouldn't try in other places, it's in little short form platforms where like it has a day that anybody will see it. And then it's not indexed anywhere, like no one will find it. It's just gone. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of fun. You can do a lot of stuff that you can't do other places. And it's also a fun place to experiment where you can just try quick stuff and find what your audience is actually interested in. Because it varies platform to platform. But it's
The other bit of this question was about building multiple distribution channels and user behaviors into the strategy or brief. So I think, you know, we did talk about a little bit, well, quite a lot actually on the webinar about planning and pre-production, which kind of seems like the unsexy part of making video, but is also super important. So I think, I mean, just like figuring out the distribution channels and the user behaviors and the personas is part of the brief. So if you have multiple distribution channels, multiple personas that you want this to hit, include them in the brief. And then you can figure out, like, do we need to create different video for each of these, or can we reuse the same video? I think it's just a matter of actually just identifying those first.
Yeah. And again, I think there's a lot of lessons from YouTubers where, I mean, I like the way that a lot of YouTube creators have started using different platforms. So like, for example, you have a creator that's posting long form videos to YouTube, but they're posting behind the scenes content to Instagram as stories. They're posting, you know, teasers to TikTok. And so they are, if you're producing one big thing, like if you actually have a production that has like a brief and has a crew and you're doing a whole thing, then you can come up with a strategy for different platforms where like, cool, all of the PAs should be taking behind the scenes content with their phones, you know, and we can post that stuff to a different channel. You know, you can, instead of making one thing, it's really like, if you have like a real production, it's an event that you've got all these people together for. And so you can create a lot more content than what the main camera is shooting. And
that's a really good point. Yeah. I love watching behind the scenes. I love behind the scenes stuff. I will watch that all day. I really love watching like voice actors recording an animated feature or something like that. That's the stuff that I watch a lot of on YouTube, but also because I do voice acting, but so it's like interesting to me. But to watch like the actors recording the voices of Moana or something like that, and watch like The Rock do his, you know, little rap bit, and Lin-Manuel Miranda, and so I like eat that up. So I think there could be definitely more of that behind the scenes stuff that you're doing. I love watching artists doing, like, creating a painting or something, and then you see the finished product. You know, I love all of that stuff. So okay, next question. We're almost going as long as the actual webinar. When it comes to YouTube versus Vimeo, which is better if you're a business? YouTube has a broad audience, but Vimeo lets you keep people on your website without extra branding, right?
That is right. I think that's kind of like, and it's the question. In my mind, if it's a piece of content that I want somebody to discover organically, like that I would ever want to show up as a video in a search engine, you should be putting it on a platform that's searchable like YouTube. Vimeo. I mean, someone who's more expert in SEO would know more about this, but a Vimeo video on a page on your website, like the text of that page is going to get indexed. That video itself is not going to get indexed in the same way that the YouTube search engine is going to index it. So truly, YouTube content is going to be more discoverable. But again, what's the goal of this video? If this video is like a piece of content that you want people to organically find and consume on a separate platform, then like, yeah, put it on YouTube. If this is like a demo video that you only want to live on your site, or like something that you're gating, if this is something that's like not really a piece of content that would be consumed out of context of the page, then Vimeo is great for that. Vimeo lets you control the embed. It gives you analytics, and it's a nice tool, but it's different. It's a different purpose than YouTube.
Yeah, I agree. And that's, how we use them. So we use Vimeo for like our webinars when we just want a platform where we can put a really long video on it, and it's not going to like kill the website to have this massive video. But it's gated. So we don't want just people to watch it on YouTube for free. We want, we want it to use it for lead capture. We'll put those on Vimeo. But yeah, anything that you want to be discoverable, or anything that you're putting out like as just additional bonus content, like this video we're recording right now, will go on YouTube, because it's more of, it doesn't need to be gated. Anything that's brand, should go on YouTube. I think that it's just, you're wanting people to capture that audience for your brand. So why not
get
both?
more awareness on YouTube.
The answer is why not both? Okay, next question. I'm the sole video content provider for a marketing department at a university. There's a lot of sole video people. I am constantly asked for 9:16 video, but I film in 16:9. How much 9:16 videos are your companies being asked to film? So 16:9 being like your standard widescreen, and then 9:16 basically being that vertically, which, my phone is 16:9, 9:16. So if you think about all the platforms where you're looking at vertical video, that's when you would be using a 9:16. So again, it's down to like, where is your audience, right?
Yep. If your audience is on TikTok, they will not watch widescreen video. They will watch vertical video. And this is where I think if you're planning your content creation, this was always like, I feel like a few years ago there was a big debate about like, can we film? How do we make 16:9 work vertical? Can we film them at the same time? Like, how do we do this? And then there was kind of a second where everyone was like, nah, like vertical's going to go away. And then TikTok blew up and everyone's like, oh, no. Vertical's real still. Vertical's still a thing. And the way that I see it done successfully is similar to the conversation about like making content for certain platforms. If you're filming a widescreen video for if you're at the marketing department of university, you got to film a video for admissions. You want to do like a campus tour. You're going to film it widescreen. It's going to go on the website. Like, if it's for YouTube, horizontal, although YouTube's trying to get into the vertical game now with their shorts and stuff like that. But it's like two things. Like if I were to be doing that right now, I would, I'd grab a friend and have them film on their phone. That's the nice thing, is that if you're going to do vertical, most of the platforms where that stuff is, where they want that, you can probably get away with doing it on your phone. I've seen people attach their phone to their like SLR camera, like their actual main camera. They'll like mount a phone on top of it so they can get the same shot, but vertical.
I mean, that's not a terrible idea.
No, it's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then I'm also picturing like having a phone up, above my computer, my computer camera as well.
Yeah.
I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say, like, I think you need to capture them both at the same time. You really can't convert 16:9 to 9:16. Like, that's going to be a terrible experience. It was already a terrible experience to put 4:3, like, into 16, like pillar boxed into a 16:9, frame, was already kind of a terrible experience. And you see what I see on the news and stuff sometimes when they're using like user created videos that are vertical, and they put like kind of this like, they kind of do
It's
like a weird
blurred. They do like
pillar
this
box that's
weary
blurred
blur
but moving.
thing.
Yeah, I hate it.
Yeah.
So I just think you need to create it at the same time. And I loved your tip before about if you're creating a video anyway, and you have all those people around, get them to capture some stuff on their phones. Because I think the other thing that we're talking about here is that those platforms lend themselves to more casual content. So you've got like the fancier, more produced 16:9 version that's on your website somewhere, but the platforms that are doing 9:16 are the ones that are more ephemeral. They're the ones that are more casual. They're the ones that are more like, people will accept those lower production values. And so it does lend itself to like just capturing some casual stuff with like vertically.
It's also worth noting that a lot of this like vertical video, if you go watch a bunch of this quote vertical video, especially on Instagram, a lot of it's not video. A lot of it is still pictures chained together in a little slideshow. Especially I do like content creation work aside from my work here, WordPress VIP, and I do a lot of stuff for like outdoor rec industry, and everyone in that space had to pivot from taking, epic landscape shots for Instagram to all of a sudden they got to do video now. And tons of them are just like, it's slideshows. All their vertical video content, all their reels are just slideshows of pictures that they have taken. And it works really well, especially since a lot of these platforms, let you use good audio. Like you can use trending audio, you can use good music, and you can time it up so that you can make stills from another video or just still pictures that you have into vertical video for a different platform.
Cool.
Which is cool.
Okay, next question. Any tips on producing effective and memorable 6-second bumper ad videos?
I feel like this is the same as the how do I repurpose content for short form platforms. It's got to hit within like 2 seconds. It's got to be like, boom, I am interested in 3 seconds. However you do that, it just has to hit very, very quick. And like, there's a lot of ways you can do that. It depends a lot on what your content is. But that's the overarching theme is like, make it quick.
Yeah, even though it's a 6-second video, it's got to hit in 3 seconds. What I see a lot of brands doing, and I guess it because it works, is having a person, like having a talking head, rather than, my AirPod just fell out of my ear. This is real, people. Having like a person, so not starting with a shot of your product or like an animation or something like that. That's because we're still human beings, and we have this innate like engagement with another human being. So have a human being speaking like a real person to another human being that's on the other side of whatever they're making. And I think that's as a consumer, at least, like that's what I'm drawn to. Think about things like that can grab attention.
I would also add typography. I think faces and words are things that, this is like just science according to David that might not actually be real science, but it's I think like faces and big words, your brain engages with them automatically. It's not like it's very hard to ignore. So if you see like a large word on the page, you're like, whoa, and like your brain tries to parse it immediately. Same thing with faces. And so if you have, a limited amount of space in which to do something, and you don't have like the message you're trying to convey doesn't have something inherently interesting with it, like you're not talking about dirt bikes and like skiing and jumping off of mountains and like you don't have some other cool image that's like, whoa, that'll get my attention.
Or hydraulic press content.
Hydraulic presses crushing things. I don't know if there's not, you're kind of the carnival barker in that situation where you're just trying to like get people's attention. But like faces and words, like typography can be your friend, especially if
and a good example of that, like in the webinar we talked a bit about captions. And I like, when we create promo videos, we usually do like a person, and then the captions, rather than being at the bottom, will be big words next to them, like in the white space. And I think that's a really good example of like combining those two things, of the real person speaking to you. And then I think captions are really important. Like I watch a bunch of stuff on mute, so yeah, I think you need captions. Okay, I'm going to keep us moving. Tips on developing engaging thumbnails for videos when uploaded to platforms. I think what we just said actually translates to that.
Yeah.
Faces and words.
Yeah. And like, oh man, I feel like there's probably a lot of meta content that's been produced about like YouTube captions. I feel like are going to be a category in 100 years when people are looking back at the history of communication. YouTube captions or YouTube thumbnails are going to get like their own chapter of how, you know, wacky YouTube thumbnails. And but yeah, like platform specific stuff. I feel like if you're talking about engaging thumbnails, you're probably talking about YouTube, because that's probably where, I don't know of anywhere else where anyone is really stressing about their thumbnails. But like, yeah. Faces and words.
Yeah. And branding, I think. Yeah, branding too, right? Like I know like YouTube always gives those, you know, related videos or what you might also like to watch or something like that. And I sort of tune into the branding from creators that I've seen before or that I've liked something of theirs before. So if the thumbnail is sort of branded, it stands out as like, oh, I recognize that and I want to watch their take on this topic or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay, we have one last question to cover. How do you specifically work with talent that has little media exposure to make them more comfortable on camera?
That's another good question.
We hit on this like a little bit in the webinar when we talked about using subject matter experts from your company.
I feel like the biggest challenge there, I mean, you always want to try and make people feel relaxed, you know?
Yeah.
I usually, if I'm doing a video with someone who does not do a lot of video, I do try really hard to like get a run into it, you know? Like just video for a while and chat with them about stuff before asking them like actual questions if you're doing an interview. But like get some time to warm them up. Definitely have a person there doing the interview with them or handling them that they are comfortable with. But most importantly, I think they like, it comes down to content, right? Like there's a lot of folks on YouTube with a bajillion subscribers that are not charismatic at all, that are like terrible on camera, but are producing really interesting content. And so everyone tunes in. And that is the most important thing at the end of the day, is like, if you have somebody who doesn't have a lot of on-camera experience, is not like, you know, isn't going to go be in your Super Bowl ad, but knows a bunch of interesting stuff, make sure you get that interesting stuff out of them. Like make sure that you ask them the right questions to get them to say what they have to say. If you do that, that content will have value, regardless of how natural they seem on camera. There's a lot of stuff you can do to make people feel at ease, but like if you make them feel at ease and then don't get the interesting, you know, information out of them, then it won't help. But they can be awkward, but have really interesting things to say, and that will be okay.
Yeah, I think this goes back a lot to the pre-planning discussion. From my experience, when people don't have a lot of experience on camera or they're not very comfortable on camera, they really appreciate a lot of preparation and planning and knowing what they should say, and even giving them like canned responses to things. So that they know those, but then they need to be able to deliver them more naturally. And we've had this happen before where somebody that we talk to all the time and who's on lots of Zoom calls and is totally natural and totally fun and light, when you give them a script and make them record it on video, they just like freeze up and they get really wooden, which is a very interesting phenomenon to me. But yeah, something about the audience. But I think, you know, it's good for them to have a script. It's good for them to be prepared, but to encourage them to loosen up a bit. I think something that's really worked well for us is whenever we can live direct somebody. So if we can be, and you had some really great advice for this in the webinar as well. So everyone should check it out if you want to learn a bit more about this topic. But yeah, being able to be like on Zoom with the person and doing that prep work of getting them warmed up, and then also, you know, and then if they're just recording a little snippet, like have them deliver it and then give them some notes and have them deliver it again. And yeah, there's like a few different things that you can do, but little tricks like that. But yeah, getting someone to hold something while they're talking, or like, you know, put their sort of energy into the thing that they're holding, get them to look in the camera, get them to smile. Yeah, there's lots of different
interview
things
somebody
like that.
with somebody else. Like if you maybe don't do a single person alone, like get them with someone else, get them with a coworker or something, interview two people at once so they can play off of each other. There's you do it like this, where you just record an extended conversation and then cut bits out of the middle of it.
Oh, we're not cutting any of this. This is
no,
all
we're not. This
going
is
to
gold.
air.
We're not cutting any of this. But you know, if you had someone who didn't just say a lot of interesting stuff constantly, then you might need to give them some time to work it out. You know,
not us.
Just cherry pick the bits out of the middle that are good.
Yeah, and that's with the real benefit of live directing them, because like it's so much harder when they're recording something, they're sending it to you, then you say, can you do it a bit more like this, and then they record it again and you send it back. Like so much easier and more comfortable to be able to live direct them. And or if they're speaking off the cuff, sometimes they'll say something really good, but it will be full of ums and ahs, and they'll look away or they'll frown or something like that. So you can say, hey, what you just said was awesome. Can you say it again? And this time look into the camera, or this time like smile at the end or something. And they'll usually say it again in a slightly different way, but it might be better because it's the second time they're saying it. So yeah. That's the end of our questions, but this was really fun. So if anyone wants to check out the entire webinar, it was an hour long. We've gone for quite a while here, but there was even more and more people. We had these two amazing panelists who had lots of great stuff to say as well. So we'll put the link for that in the notes, and so that everyone can go and check out the full webinar on producing more marketing videos. David, thanks for joining.
Anytime. I will talk at a camera anytime.
All right. Well, we'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.